we're waiting for Michelle and Brian. Oh, Brian, no, who's missing?
It's just Michelle.
Michelle.
So should we get started, Matt?
Sure.
Okay, welcome to this public meeting of the Princeton Board of Education. The board is an elected, unpaid group of 10 citizens who set policy and make decisions on educational, financial, and personnel matters for the Princeton Public Schools on behalf of all residents. We are always pleased when members of the community attend our meetings. The board and the school district operate under applicable New Jersey laws and under regulations of the New Jersey Board of Education. Each meeting includes an opportunity for those attending to comment on items on the published agenda or other matters of interest to them. The board reserves the right to limit the time allotted to public participation. Law limits discussion of individual personnel and confidential matters. We desire that our meetings provide useful opportunity for communication between the board and the community. Thank you for attending.
As required under the Open Public Meeting Act, NJSA 1046 et sequentia, adequate notice was given for calling this meeting. It was authorized by the Board of Education and forwarded to the municipal clerk Princeton packet in the Times on January 9th, 2020, and distributed to the schools and others on the standard distribution list. The board reserves the right to enter into executive session during all board meetings. Board Policy 2230, recording devices, requires that we inform those attending this virtual Zoom meeting that the proceedings are being recorded. This meeting is not being live streamed. The representative of the sending district is authorized to vote on such matters that affect sending district students or affect the governance of the Princeton Public Schools as more specifically designated in NJSA 18A 38A.1. In the event that this statute is amended, the law shall take precedence over this bylaw. Sending district votes pertaining to personnel actions refer to high school, central administrative, and district-wide staff only. Votes otherwise are considered abstentions. Take a roll call.
Would you call the roll, please?
Thank you. Beth Barron?
Here.
Debbie Bronfeld?
Yes.
Dan Dart?
Here.
Jess Deutsch?
Here.
Betsy Baglio?
Yes. Here.
Brian McDonald?
Present.
Michelle Tuck Ponder?
Present.
Peter Katz?
Here.
Daphne Kendall?
Here.
Susan Cantor?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. I'll just note, I think we have a little internet issue tonight. A number of us keep falling on and off, so we'll just keep playing it by ear, and if you fall off, come on back. If I fall off, Michelle, you're up. The first item tonight is the item D1, adoption of minutes for September 29th, 2020 meeting. Could I have a motion, please? Brian, second. Jess, thank you. Any discussion? If none, Mr. Bolden, you want to call the roll?
Beth Barron?
Yes.
Dan Dart?
Yes.
Oh, Debbie Bronfeld?
Yes.
Jess Deutsch?
Yes.
Betsy Baglio?
Yes.
Brian McDonald?
Yes.
Michelle Tuck Ponder?
Yes.
Peter Katz?
Yes.
Daphne Kendall?
Yes.
Susan Cantor?
Yes.
Motion passes.
So that brings us to my report, and I simply want to welcome all the attendees this evening. It looks like we have a good crowd. We appreciate when the public comes to our meeting. I want to express gratitude, as we do now almost weekly, to our staff and our administrators and our students and our maintenance people and our tech department in particular on the computers this week. They're doing an amazing job 24/7 of getting those computers out to our students. And I also want to give a shout out to the PHS football team who won a game last week and won a very hard fought game. So it's very exciting. And it's a very auspicious and positive way to begin the year at PHS. So shout out to you guys and the football team. And with that, I'm going to turn it right over to Barry.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much. First of all, let me congratulate our two board representatives, our student representatives to the Board of Education. I received an email late this afternoon from the advisor, and I also talked to Principal Baxter. And it's my pleasure to introduce Maya Khan and Yash Roy as our student representatives. The advisor, Principal Baxter, and I will be meeting with the students, talking about their role, and we'll be hearing from them at our meeting on October 27th. I did get an opportunity to meet Yash yesterday in a Zoom, but I have not had the pleasure of meeting Maya, and I look forward to that. So I want to congratulate you. We look forward to working with you on the board, and we really look forward to the student perspective as we move forward through this school year. So congratulations to both of you. I also want to congratulate Valerie Ulrich, and I want to have a special thank you for the 45 volunteers from Princeton University and faculty who have volunteered to tutor 45 of our students. That is just a tremendous community outpouring of support for students, and we are just pleased to say thank you to them. I also have a surprise. As you all know, we had 2 grant awards for $249,000, and I mentioned that we were going to submit an additional grant, a 3rd grant, and I just received word from Valerie Ulrich, who is the author of the grant, that we were successful for another $41,000 grant from an anonymous funder. And I'm just going to read the paragraph of what this project will do. Our project seeks to improve classroom culture for all students by cultivating educators who are racially literate, counter their own implicit bias, and continually engage in explorations of their own identity. We will utilize awarded funds to diversify our curriculum materials, educate our teachers in culturally relevant teaching strategies through targeted professional development, and formally infuse a diverse viewpoint in all of our curriculum throughout the curriculum revision in each subject area. So that was the 3rd piece. When I talked about the connectivity, and then we were talking about the YWCA and care for our kids, and then we were talking about the infusion and implementing the racial literacy program pre-K, K, and 1. And again, I want to thank Keisha for doing that with our staff, and along with Virgila. And now the third piece has been approved, and that's this $41,000 grant that will go to support the that initiative of taking a look at our curriculum. I also want to just say that I want to appreciate the work of Jason Burr and the POOMS group. For last night, we had our renaming committee 2nd meeting, and they have outlined an aggressive, comprehensive pre-K to 12 student engagement program. I'll share it with the board as soon as Jason was making a few revisions from suggestions and input from various committee members last night. He's going to be sending that out to the committee, and as soon as the committee finalizes any revisions over the next week, I will be forwarding it to the Board of Education. I'll make a presentation on the 27th of how that group is going to proceed, and I'll invite Jason and the members of his subcommittee who put this together to make a presentation to the board. So I'm really pleased with that. From a hybrid learning standpoint, our 6th through 12th grade youngsters will be returning next week. I want to announce a little variation to that, but I also want to commend the Princeton staff, our students, and our principals and administrative staff for a really nice opening for the first 2 days of our pre-K to 5. Monday was a little difficult because of the rain, but the spirits of the kids were terrific. One parent termed her youngster's day, and when he came home, she asked, "How was your day?" And he said, "Amazing." And she said the first time in a long time that her youngster expressed that kind of excitement to be in school. So we're happy, and we hope to continue with the phase up program of our 6th through 12, expanding our fine arts program. Pat Lenahan will be sending out a communication and another blast to all parents, explaining that not only are we expanding sports, but we're expanding our opportunities for the music program at both the middle school and the senior high school. So let me explain exactly what will occur next week at the junior high. Instead of our hybrid working Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then our 5th day being remote, we're going to flip it. And we're going to have Monday as the remote day. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday will be the hybrid in-person model. And the reason for that is that, you know, we did extensive renovations at the middle school. Well, the contractors have just completed or will complete all their work tomorrow. So we need about 4 days to get the buildings ready. We'll probably have an additional 20 people in there to do that. And we want to be able to provide staff an opportunity to come in and get into the building, which they haven't been able to do, on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday if they choose. So POOMS will open up for hybrid instruction on Tuesday of next week. I'll have Elizabeth Collier send the communication out to all parents, and naturally Jason and his staff will be communicating that also. The senior high school, let me just reiterate, will come in Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday as planned, and Principal Baxter and her staff are ready to welcome students for that particular cohort that will be coming in. The last thing I want to mention under my superintendent's report is that I've had a lot of discussions with students, discussions with interested parents, and we've read a lot of letters about staff accommodations. I just want to make a few comments about staff accommodations. As of today, we have provided 18 teachers an accommodation, an administrative assignment to work from home, 2 instructional aides, and we have offered 5 others an opportunity to work from home that has been declined. So that's a total of 25 accommodations that we have provided. It's important to know that we've worked closely for hours on weekends with union representatives, our HR department, our administrative staff, our principals, so that we could have properly do 2 things: have a robust remote program and bring our kids for live hybrid instruction. And I credit both principals of the junior and senior high, our elementary principals, for working with us and having us be able to build a program that was able to provide for 25 accommodations for staff who felt that they needed to work from home and could provide the medical documentation necessary for that to occur. I know that's not all the staff who wanted accommodations, but it is the staff that we are working with up to this point. I'm sure that we'll be working with additional staff as we move towards this. But I also want to talk a little bit about the fact that teachers have been treated by the HR department with empathy, compassion, and they have been treated with the utmost respect. NJA and the union leadership, and for residents who don't know, our teachers are very fortunate. And I was a teacher who belonged to the same organization years ago. The NJEA is the premier educational organization, not only in the state, it's the premier organization in the country. They have the best attorneys, the best medical staff to guide them, the best UNISERV reps, and they do the best professional development of all the local presidents and vice presidents and representatives who are part of the NGA family. So our teachers have had the advantage of having those people guide them through this process. And we're thankful for the union's cooperation as we work together to provide these accommodations for our staff. But I want to impress upon the community that we're doing it with empathy, compassion, and the goal of providing a robust remote for those who chose that. It's about 34% of our staff or families, and a hybrid option, which, by the way, is not an option for us. It's part of the governor's reopening plan. School districts must provide a hybrid option where youngsters can come in for live instruction. So it's not the option of the Princeton School Board to say, okay, we're going to be remote for an entire year or 6 months. In order for us to go remote for as long as we did, we had to send in a reason that had to be accepted. Our reason was the referendum work and the fact that we wanted to upgrade all of our HVAC. I could spend another 20 minutes, but it's on our website of all the accommodations that we are making for every staff member who works in Princeton, from HVAC to PPE to the cleanliness of our buildings, to hand sanitizer, temperature taking, pre-screenings. All these things are being done, and they are, for the purposes of this discussion, can be found on our website. You can look at our medical recertification documents. You can look at the legal opinion, the public legal opinion of our Labor Council. You can view all those documents online and draw your own conclusion from it. But our goal is the health and safety of our students, staff, and faculty. And we want to provide both a remote and a hybrid learning environment for youngsters. And I think we've accomplished that, and we continue to work on this whole program, because it is a work in progress. COVID changes daily. The public received communications from me this weekend regarding CP Elementary School, and then regarding our boys soccer team. Two things that I think are important to know. We will always be transparent about any COVID case. Parents, faculty, and staff will always be informed. And my personal philosophy is that we will always go above and beyond the guidance we receive from the Princeton Health Department, which has been fabulous and fantastic in guiding us to the protocols that we're utilizing. But the board's direction has been for us to do this in the safest possible manner. And to that, I want to commend them also, because there hasn't been one thing that any member of the administration has requested from an expenditure standpoint for the health, safety, and instructional program that they have denied. So with that, Beth, I think I'll end my comments, but I just want to say, I want to congratulate Valerie for doing a phenomenal job, 3 for 3 in grants. That's almost Hall of Fame work. So that's terrific. And the 3 goals that we had, I can't thank the anonymous funder enough, because the contribution that they're going to make to our school district is going to make us better, and it's going to help kids. And what they have really done is level the playing field for students with connectivity and the ability to be safe at a YW or a YMCA before and after school program. So we want to thank our anonymous funder for all 3 grants.
Thank you, Dr. Galasso, for that really exciting update on the grants, and for that thorough discussion of the accommodation process. And I think we're all grateful to you and your team for your leadership on this issue, and on simply this entire complex problem of how we bring our children back to school during a pandemic in accordance with the state requirements, and in a way that is safe and appropriate in terms of our educational program. So I know that we are all grateful for your leadership. So thank you. I think that takes us to our public
Can we
forum.
ask a question while the superintendent is
Sure.
making?
Is there any board questions?
So I have 2 questions. One is, thank you, Barry. I concur with Beth's comments and the board's view that you've done a great job under very challenging circumstances, and with the assistance of your team. So I commend you all for that, and thank you. The 2 questions are, one is from an enrollment perspective. Are our numbers up, down, the same? And can you give us any comments on what, if any, changes that you've seen?
Our numbers are down, probably about 150 students at the current time, less than last year. I think there's a number of reasons for that. There are some staff or some university staff that have not come to Princeton as they typically do at the Institute. I think there are some kindergarten parents who probably have opted to stay away from school until 1st grade because of the COVID environment. There are also some parents who have chosen to do homeschooling. Probably off the top of my head, 15 or 20 parents have notified us of homeschooling. So I think it's a combination of a number of things, Dan. And I think once the COVID crisis passes, I think you'll see enrollment start to tick up again. We have a number of parents who are in foreign countries who have not returned for this school year for a number of reasons. And we're working with them because they are coming back, but they're just not back at the current time. So I think for all those reasons, the enrollment has dipped a bit, but I think it's a temporary thing, and I think in the future it will go up.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? If not, I think we'll move into our public comment. We ask that members of the public are free to make comments to us. We do not necessarily, it's not a Q&A session. Sometimes Superintendent Galasso will choose to make a comment if he feels it's appropriate. We ask that you keep your comments to 3 minutes, that you state your name and address, and that you be mindful that there are often other people who would like to comment, so we try to respect the time. Matt?
Susan Murphy?
I'm sorry. My name's Susan Murphy. I live at 3838 River Road in Lumberville, Pennsylvania. I've been an English teacher at Princeton High School for 24 years. I'm reaching out to you because despite 2 emphatic doctor's notes and requests to Mr. Volpe, I've been met with an offer of leave without absence, without pay, or medical benefits. I'm here to plead with you to reconsider. Your offer leaves me in the position where I must choose between my father's life and my livelihood and my responsibilities as the sole parent, wage, and insurance provider of 3 children. Please let me permit to share some of Dr. Umani's letter. Because of his advanced age and metastatic cancer, Mr. Franz is vulnerable to potentially devastating consequences from infection with COVID-19 virus. Because of his frail condition and disabling degenerative joint disease, he's also dependent on the help given by his primary caregiver, daughter Susan Murphy. Teaching remotely from home, she has been able to care for her father without passing the virus from school to her vulnerable father. Although the Princeton Public School Administration has undertaken a noble effort to mitigate the risk of COVID-19 with safety protocols, masks, face shields, and building engineering upgrades, the risk of infection from in-person on-site classroom teaching still exceeds acceptable risks for vulnerable individuals and those with whom there is close physical contact. In consideration of her father's health and personal responsibilities, it is medically appropriate for Ms. Murphy to continue teaching full-time remotely off-site. Please honor this reasonable request. So reasonable. While it seems within the board's power and prerogative to override these medical directives, please don't force me to ignore them because of my own economic and personal situation. As a widowed mother, making the choice between taking a year's leave of absence and endangering my father's life is really difficult. Do we really need to ask employees to make this kind of Sophie's choice in Princeton in the 21st century in a district that has built a platform on the ideals of wellness and equity? All of us wish for the kind of classroom community of a pre-COVID world. In my own classroom, remote learning is working. Ask my students to share the work they produced in the last few weeks. Ask them to share their reading of voices across the wide spectrum of American experience. This kind of work is the product of many, many hours of rethinking, relearning, adapting to new standards. Work I'd love to share with you and wish and welcome you to contact me about. Please let me continue to do that work, my life's work, as well as to be the caretaker of my family. I sincerely hope that none of you today on the board will be faced with the kind of decision that I am right now. I hope you will take a medical professional's view to heart as you reconsider my need for remote teaching accommodations. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Beverly.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can.
Oh, great. So my name is Beverly Yilmaz, and I live in the Stanford, the Merriwick Stanford or Stanworth project, whatever. I want to know, this is a question, not a comment. I'm wondering how special needs kids will be accommodated with the YMCA and the YWCA programs.
If you'd like me to comment, the YM and the YWCA, our administration and our special education director are working with them to make sure that the special needs kids can be accommodated at both programs. But that will be an individual decision based on the youngster's IEP, and it will be based on the individual needs of that youngster. So I would encourage you to give Dr. Ginsburg a call or email him, and he can direct your inquiry to the appropriate person to provide you with assistance.
Let me see. All right, thank you.
Thank you. And Cheng?
Hi, good evening. This is Ann Cheng from Stewart Road, Princeton. I have two things to say. One is to make the observation. I know that you said that it is not the school's decision about going hybrid, and I understand the difficulty of that kind of constraint, but I do want to point out that there is an uptick in infection rates in New Jersey and all over the country. And there's evidence all around us that any kind of opening is going to lead to, which is going to be another vector of infection. So it seems like a lot of waste of energy and time and risk for the teachers and staff to open just to have to probably close again in a couple of weeks. So I just want to make that observation. And my kids are going to stay remote. So this is not a selfish observation. I'm truly worried for the teachers and the staff. And second of all, I also want to make the request that you make a concerted effort to work with the teachers on the remote learning part of their work. My kids are in several classes where basically the routine is they read the textbook at home by themselves alone, and then during virtual class time, they're all doing their own little problems from the book in class. So there's actually not a lot of teaching going on online. And I know it's difficult. I'm a teacher myself. It is tremendously difficult to work with a new platform. But instead of, I just think instead of worrying about a lot of creating a lot of extra work, there should be a lot of attention paid to remote teaching, especially since remote will remain a part of hybrid. Thank you.
Thank you. Jen Bigioni?
my own words, but then also some of my colleagues who didn't feel comfortable speaking in front of you tonight. So they asked me to speak for them.
Can you turn up your volume, Jen, please?
I can try.
There you
Okay, does this work better?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you much
Okay.
better. Thank
Sorry. So there's still very much concern about HVAC, which doesn't seem to be functioning in parts of the building, and where HVAC and roof leaks are still persistent. One room today being identified with mold. So this is a persistent problem in our buildings, and one of the reasons why we've been concerned about coming back. So that's one of the issues. There's also been pretty consistent reports of mask non-compliance where people have said that they've seen people in the buildings not wearing masks. I've witnessed it several times on my own. Then the rules themselves don't require masks 100% of the time. The rules right now say that a person who is in an office by themselves does not have to have a mask on, but we know that the virus is in aerosol form, and if that person were COVID positive, when they left, their disease would still be floating in the air for 6 to 8 hours after, allowing anybody who comes in, like a custodian who's cleaning afterwards, to breathe in the illness. So we're really asking for 100% mask mandatory, and also strict enforcement of this policy. It's not comfortable for any of us, but it's the only thing that's actually safe. The rules as they stand now are not. Then several people also spoke to the fact that since March, they have been strictly following the recommendations. And I too am one of those people. I've seen my mother once since March. We sat outside 6 feet apart, masked the entire time. Now we're being asked to come into the building and be with people. True, they are masked, but we are going to be in close contact with them for a long period of time. And when we drive through Princeton, we notice that a lot of people on Nassau Street and on Witherspoon Street are not mask compliant. So for those of us who have been following the rules, who have not seen our family for fear of making them ill, who have been limiting all of our time around other people to make sure that we are as safe as we can be and have others be safe, we are now being asked to mix with people who have not held to the same standards and who we don't know have held to the same standards. A lot of people are also saying that that remote instruction is working very well, and that at most about 2/3 of our students are going to be remote on any given day anyway. Most of us are planning on teaching the exact same way that we have been, because there's no way to handle a few students in front of you and most of them outside. Even though we have the best hybrid plan that anyone could come up with, most of us are still saying that 100% remote instruction is a much better option than most of us having the same kind of instruction, but uncomfortable and risky inside a building. Somebody else wanted me to be quite forceful and said,
Jen?
Sure.
Jen?
Yes.
Could you wrap it up, please?
Yes, I only
we're
have
trying to get as many people in as
totally
possible.
understand. Said that if he or anyone that he knows is ill, or that he was responsible for anyone ill, that he would be definitely suing the district for that. And then said especially that a lot of us were handling lots of extra protocols that we're not up on, coaches in particular, and that it's just taking a lot of our time and energy, and compliance is very difficult. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Medina Arthur.
Hello, good evening. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm actually calling on behalf of a teacher who I think was incredibly phenomenal in the spring, Mrs. Custer. I know that she has expressed to the board her medical conditions, and I'm sure there are other teachers who have similar situations. I understand this is a difficult situation that we're all in. However, there are some people where this is a life and death situation for them, and something has to be done on their behalf. Having medical insurance in this country is a must, and to ask a teacher to make a decision between her job and losing insurance is a little difficult. I do understand the situation the board is in. I understand that these are unprecedented times, but I do implore you to look beyond, find other ways where we can help. Mrs. Custer was an incredibly great teacher. I remember she was one of the few people I made comments to a couple of teachers, and she was one of them. She was incredibly responsive. She gave her students a lot of feedback and a lot of guidance in the spring. And I was so impressed with what she did, even though a lot of the teachers at that time really had to struggle and make do on their own. So I am calling on behalf of her and how much the difference she made in my child's learning. And I'm sure there are other teachers who are doing similar work, who are also in very difficult medical situations. And I would hope that you would be able to take that into account find alternative ways in which we can make this work. Because I understand this is a mandated situation that we're in from the state, and it's a catch-22, but we have to make this work. Thank you so much.
This is Arthur. This is Dr. Galasso. Would you do me a favor, please? Would you
Yes.
contact the teacher that you're telling the board about tonight? I can't speak about personnel issues on this call, but I think if you would contact her and have a conversation, I think it would be helpful.
I will.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Graciela, Elia.
Good evening, members of the board and members of the Princeton community. I'm coming to the board and the community to advocate for the quality of education at PBS. The board, the PBS staff, the parents, and the community have been working hard to maintain this quality that keeps PBS at the top of many rankings. With that in mind, it is difficult to see how filling the position of seasoned teachers with substitute teachers will maintain the educational quality PBS is known for. Teachers like Susie Murphy and Alexis Castor know the PHS students, the culture of PHS, and the community. They have been a strong part of the educational infrastructure of PHS. Teachers are more than employees, even if some of us don't live in Princeton. Our dedication and commitment go beyond the employment code. Our hours of work go beyond the school hours. When we leave school, we take Princeton with us. I don't want to diminish any teacher's workload, but I know for a fact that science teachers have a lot of prep work. I cannot imagine the time required by teachers like Alexis to get her lab ready. After teaching for many years at PHS, I have developed my own lessons and activities. I am sure that so has Alexis. How is a substitute teacher going to fill in her shoes? I know for a fact that Susie writes between 50 to 60 letters of recommendations for college every year. I ask you parents, is a substitute teacher going to write them? What kind of letters are they going to be? A generic letter without capturing the essence of your sons and daughters' character and goals? We teachers are resourceful professionals. Susie is a fighter. She became a widow when her family was young and cared for 3 young children. Her father was the only one she leaned on. If Susie decides to take the unpaid leave of absence and no health benefits because she doesn't want to put her father at risk, she will walk away from PHS and she will find a way to survive and succeed. I know there are many families in bad situations and sadly are facing hardship. The pandemic is leaving a trail of immense pain and sorrow, but PPS, we have choices that can help those in need. At the end of the last public board meeting, the members of the board had a short discussion about video conferencing and how efficiently it has served its purpose for so many. Dear members of the board, you expressed how Zoom became a viable venue to engage the community in these difficult times. Video conferencing has been around for many years in the corporate sector. It has enabled the success of many domestic and global companies. So why couldn't it be an option for those who are really in need of this technology to benefit PBS? Thank you for this opportunity to share my opinion and have a good night.
Thank you.
Renee?
Hi, my name's Reanna. I'm a senior at PHS. I just had a few thoughts that I would like to share. I think in this situation, the teacher should have a choice, virtual or hybrid. In this situation, every teacher should be able to choose what academic setting would make them feel most productive and most safe. Without the insurance of this, I don't see how they can really do the most effective job at teaching if they're not in a situation that they feel safe and comfortable in. I acknowledge that students are wanted, or teachers are wanted back at school to bring things back to normal or to ensure that curriculum is being fulfilled or other reasons like that, but I believe that safety is priority and that the teachers right now and since last year have done an amazing job given the situation that we're in. Mrs. Custer, for example, has been one of the many teachers that I've had that's been productive and supportive and excellent at communicating. And I don't see how teachers are going to do the best that they can when they aren't comfortable. So what I'll leave you with is my thanks to all of you for listening and for all the teachers who are doing so well with the situation that we're in. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Rebecca?
Hi, I'm Rebecca and I'm a senior at Princeton High School. First, I would like to say thanks to the board for granting some accommodations. I and Ms. Custer last year for forensic science. Not only was it the first year forensic science was offered at Princeton as a year-long course, but half of it was virtual due to COVID-19. Despite all of the challenges, Ms. Custer did an amazing job, and I'm so beyond grateful for her hard work. When we did go online, Ms. Custer had work up and ready right away. It was very evident that she put a lot of time and effort in to keep us learning. She made videos explaining every assignment, checked in with us, and kept class moving ahead as normal. There were still group projects, we still presented them, and there was still individual work and research. In the end, I learned just as much online as I did in the classroom. These are very challenging times, and I feel that the top priority for everyone should be health and safety. I think every teacher should have a choice whether or not to teach at school. Online school can be just as effective as in school, and safety should be the top priority. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sue McMahon?
Hello, can you hear me?
We can.
Yes.
Thank you. I'm a resident of Sargent Street in Princeton, and I'd like to echo Ann Cheng's comments and the comments of so many others subsequent to her. We know that infections are surging across many states, including New Jersey. In fact, Planet Princeton reported this week that Princeton Day School reported 3 high school students tested positive. My concern is not for my high school senior, who I've chosen to continue in remote learning, like 34% of my peers. My concern is for the teachers and the staff who are not being given the same option universally. I understand, Ms. Barron, that our governor mandated that hybrid learning was a required option. He also mandated that remote learning be made an option as well. Well, I'm hearing that teachers with pre-existing conditions and who are taking medications that put them at risk as a result, like Ms. Custer, who we all love, are being granted the ability to teach remotely, which I'm very, very thankful to the board for. Like Mrs. Arthur, I'm so appreciative of Ms. Custer's dedication to create engaging remote learning opportunities for my student and other students, and to keep her parents, their parents, in the loop. I just feel like we need to extend this opportunity to other teachers and staff who not only have pre-existing conditions, but are living in households with others who are at risk. No matter how many precautions we take, and Princeton Public Schools is taking the absolute max, we just can't guarantee that someone is not going to get infected and take that home to a loved one. And, as a welcoming community, as a progressive community, I just struggle with our choices here. And I know you're all open to this feedback, and that's why you're having this town hall tonight. And thank you for giving us the opportunity to lean in.
Thank you, Sue.
Thank you.
Yash Roy?
Hi, everyone. I'd just like to start off by saying I'm super excited to serve as one of the student liaisons this year, and I'm deeply honored to have been chosen, been elected by my peers, and look forward to working with all of you throughout this year. Right now, I just want to speak about this issue with the teachers. I actually helped write the letter that we emailed to you a little while ago, and for me personally, teachers have, some teachers that I know that are immunocompromised or have immunocompromised family members have been so important to my own development and the development of my peers and their education. And it's just heartbreaking for us to hear these stories and to see them have to choose between their livelihoods and their own lives, or the lives of family members that live within their houses. And like, I commend you and my peers, we commend you on all the work you've done in the last 6 months. We understand that this is a really unprecedented situation that none of us imagined would even happen in February or March. And for all the work you did, especially approving the 25 requests in the last couple of days. We really appreciate that and all the work you're doing. And also to Dr. Glasso for all the information he gave us yesterday night during our conversation. And I just like to ask you guys to show as much compassion and as much empathy as possible and approve as many teachers as possible that are asking for help. I understand that everyone can't be helped, but as many people are as possible, because these teachers have been so important to us and they just mean so much to us. So just like any help would be appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. Kristin.
Hi, can you all hear me?
You can.
Great. My name's Kristin Muenzen. My son goes to Riverside School, and I'd first like to thank the board and the administration for working so hard to get the hybrid learning up and going. And probably even more importantly, I'd like to thank the teachers across the district and the staff who are there every day making this work. And I want to emphasize that while I appreciate some students can learn remotely and via Zoom, not all students can. And there is a significant amount of students who we're aware of who desperately needed the in-person. And since that started, we've seen a significant difference in our son, and he's finally learning again, more than just a half-hour Zoom that he can stand a day by going into school. And so while I appreciate a lot of the concerns, it is hugely important that the kids who need to be in school are in school. And while other discussions can happen about staff and students and teachers who may or may not need that as much, please keep in mind that there are students who can only learn in school.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Kim Groome.
Hello, thank you for your time. My name is Kim Groome. I live at 32 Academy in Princeton, New Jersey. I'm a high school social studies teacher. And as I have watched this conversation take place in the district over the last several months, it brings to mind the concept of a social contract. And I entered teaching to try and be a benefit to my students to the best of my ability. I did not undertake the job thinking that I was going to place myself or my family at increased risk including death for older members of my family and possibly myself, given an underlying health condition. So I guess here I want to speak to the board, but also to the parents who are listening on this call. I think we are fundamentally engaged in a social contract that requires that we are responsible to and for each other. And particularly for parents of middle school and high school students, you may think that your child is leaving the house to see friends in a socially distanced and masked, safe way. But of course, many teenagers will engage in behaviors that we as adults might not consider so safe. And I am encouraging us all to understand that in asking us to return to what many of us feel is a significantly less safe situation, that there is responsibility that everyone in the community has to wear a mask when you're in public and to engage in the other health measures that are recommended. In addition, I, again, am grateful for the full and open communication. And of course, we each do our best. I would think that there are instances where that information has not been nearly as complete and as prompt as it could have been for us. The instance of the high school student, it is on the website tonight. It was not, to my knowledge, in any letter that was sent to the high school staff as one instance of that. And the need for additional information about HVAC, printed information, the chance to talk with experts about HVAC. The high school, as I'm sure the board is aware, is a very old building. Many parts of it are in need of significant work. I understand that great work has been undertaken. I am telling you, I still do not think that it is an especially safe place at this point. And I urge you to give us the opportunity to talk to experts and ask them our questions about that. And finally, I think I would say that I think the kinds of issues that have been raised, particularly for Susie Murphy and Alexis Custer, but many other teachers whose names have not come forward publicly, as far as I know, there are real health concerns, and I am grateful for the accommodations that have been made. I hope that the board will continue to maintain an open mind to those conditions and a compassionate mind as well. And finally, I have a master.
Ms. Groome, I'm going to ask you if you could wrap your comments up so we can hear as many people as possible, please.
Thank you very much. I have a master's in public health, and so that's part of what brings me to speak here tonight. And I would urge us to think about the idea of asking every family who is sending a child into the schools and every staff member, teacher and other staff member, that they be tested before we walk into those buildings several days in advance so that we can know that at least at the moment that we come together, we're safe. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Deborah DiMeglio.
Hi. My name's Deb DiMeglio. I know this. My son goes to Riverside, and I can appreciate and respect everyone's opinion that's talking tonight. And I guess there's always two sides to everybody's lives and everybody's concerns. And I'm not unvalidating anyone's concerns about their health or their family member's health. I get it. But speaking to one of the other parents that spoke a little while ago, I am a mom of a very special son who literally for 7 months couldn't learn in front of a computer, didn't get any PT, OT speech. I wish my kid could learn in front of a Zoom. I really do. And I've financially hadn't been able to go back to work, couldn't find work. I'm unfortunately not married. And so I've got to support myself, but also seeing my kid over 6 months regress so bad because of the lack of services he was able to get, understandably, because school was closed. Seeing your child completely go back 5 years with all the hard work my son and your staff and the school has put into my son for the 6 years we've been at Princeton is heartbreaking. And I felt like I had failed my son. And I so appreciate, honestly, that the school had opened up especially for the self-contained classrooms. It is a very small classroom, and my son, thank God, is doing a lot better. So I want to say I do appreciate what the school has done for him, and it's such a relief. And so to speak just specifically to the very small subset of maybe students in the special needs area specific to the autism, that a lot of our kids can't do remote. And because of the small classrooms, we can kind of contain it a bit more, with the one-to-one aids. And we just want to see it from the other side, especially for the kids like my kid that desperately need the in-person, that I want to speak to that. I understand maybe when the classes are bigger, it's harder to maintain safety, but I just selfishly want to implore the board to keep in mind, specifically for the self-contained classrooms, that please, as best it can, try to keep it open, because it's a lifesaver, especially for the kids that fell through the cracks, and their rights matter too. My son's IEP, his rights as a special needs child still matter, whether COVID is here or not. And 7 months to a special needs child could be a loss of 3 years on not just learning his ABCs, but behaviors and occupational therapy. And it's not just about my son learning math. Unfortunately, my son will never go to Harvard, and he may never live independently. So I need the school for much more than math. So I'm just speaking to the community just to take in consideration those others, very small subset at Princeton. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jen Simon,
Hi, can you hear me?
we can.
Yeah.
All right. Hi, this is Jen Simon. I'm a special education teacher at the middle school where I've taught for 11 years. And I also want to add that I have just recently stepped down as the chairperson of the PREA PRESA Health and Safety Committee, a position where I worked closely with the administrators and staff on both the referendum projects and the mold issues that the district has faced the past few years. I've been fortunate that I have been one of the handful of teachers at the middle school that's been able to teach my classes from the building for the last 2 days because my classroom was not part of the construction. I have to say that I am completely shocked after what I saw today to hear that students will be in the building in just 5 days. I want to remind members of the board that most staff at the middle school have had about 3 hours in their classroom since we left the building on March 13th. When we are finally allowed back in the building to set up our rooms, we still have to put away materials from the spring in addition to prepping lesson materials for what we are teaching now. We have new staff members at the building who have yet to be allowed to step foot in their classrooms because they are still under construction. Between now and Tuesday, we are still expected to teach all of our classes, attend meetings with other staff to prepare our instruction, and now we have just a few days left to prep our rooms. I, for one, am neglecting my family enough recently, spending hours every night fixing Canvas issues and recreating my lessons for a virtual setting. I will not be spending Saturday or Sunday in my classroom as Dr. Glasso offered just because the construction ran over schedule. In addition to the teachers needing to set up our rooms, our nurse needs to move from her temporary office into her new space. Administration needs to make sure that our desks are rearranged to allow for social distancing. The hallway signage that we have heard about repeatedly needs to be installed once the hallways are clear of construction. Custodial staff needs time to come in and clean after the contractors supposedly finish tomorrow. There are classrooms that have dealt with mold repeatedly over the past few years, classrooms that had their window AC units removed in the spring and still do not have the new HVAC systems started in their classrooms that should be inspected for new mold growth before staff and students should be asked to enter that space. I understand the desire to get back into the building as soon as possible. Trust me when I tell you that I cannot wait to see my students in real life. But I am asking both the superintendent and the board to reconsider opening the building for students on Tuesday for the safety of both our staff and students and to allow us to prepare a welcoming classroom environment for our students when they do return. Thank you.
Thank you.
Helen Rose.
Hello. Hi, I'm sorry. I have my kids behind me, so I apologize if there's noise in the background. I just want to reiterate, I know I've said it before, but with the way the meeting's going, I felt like I needed to speak again. You know, behind closed doors in the pediatrician's office, people just are not doing well with remote learning. And I'm not saying that there aren't people who can do well and do well. I'm not saying we don't have excellent teachers who are working hard and are being pushed in some ways maybe too hard. But I do want to reiterate that remote learning does not work well for most children in my experience. And for many children, it doesn't work at all. So as hard as it is, and there are going to be difficult decisions to make, I just hope the decisions continue to be made in the favor of our students and our children. And I also want to say I appreciate everybody's hard work. I appreciate the teachers' hard work. I also want to just say from my perspective, just as somebody who's gone to work through this and has, you know, worn masks every day and that kind of thing, is that I really believe the protection works. The masks work and the masks decrease the risk really significantly. As hard as it is to go in and you know, be more exposed than you are at home, the risk really is decreased dramatically by these masks. All right, thank you, and thanks for everybody's hard work.
Thank you.
Thank you. Chris Ayers.
So first and foremost,
I just want to say I appreciate your leadership through this period. No decision is an easy decision, and I really do appreciate the courage of the leadership of you guys. I'm in an interesting situation. I live on Harris. My wife teaches in Hopewell. I've got a daughter who's a senior at the high school who, you know, she's on her way with education. She's fine. And then I have a son who's still trying to figure it out. So just a few comments. Hopewell has been hybrid since the beginning of the school year. And I'll say from her perspective as a teacher, she's in every day too. She's special ed. It's gone incredibly well. She needs to be with her kids. She, you know, in the spring it was hybrid. I mean, I'm sorry, when in the spring it was all virtual, and that was not working at all for her kids who needed her. Now she's in the classroom, and it's incredibly effective for her students. And quite frankly, as her husband, I'm relieved because what she was trying to put into the virtual thing was causing me some hardship. So I'm really, I see what happens from her perspective in terms of being in the school, and it's gone well in Hopewell. For my daughter, I'm appreciative that you're offering the virtual option just because she's good with that. She's doing well. She knows how to operate in a school system, in an educational system, and she's figured it out. And so she could do either, and she'll probably stick with virtual because she is that way. My son, though, as a 7th grader in the middle school, it's a different experience than being in the elementary school. So him being able to go back to school and sort of figure out how to work effectively in an educational environment is important. And I really appreciate that he has those options. Again, I just wanted to commend you for the decisions you've made, and you're doing the best you can, and it takes a lot of courage. And also, I'm really appreciative to be in this area, that we have the choices that we do. And again, thank you guys so much for all your work in this area.
Thank you.
Sue McMahon.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I just wanted to follow up on earlier comments. You know, having listened to the board members, the parents, the students tonight, we need to appreciate the differences, right? For middle school and high school students who are challenged with special needs, elementary school students, you know, virtual school is not a really good choice. But for those who are not, it is. So I would love to hear from this board how you can appreciate those differences and how we can make the choice, the right choice for the kids that really need in-person school and won't thrive without it, versus the kids that can make it work. And you know, from a high school mom's perspective, you know, they're digital natives. They understand how to use virtual tools. They are better than we are at transitioning to the virtual environment. Like, how can we support them in a virtual way and still be able to support these kids that need more in-person handholding and because of their needs than others do? Thank you.
Thank you.
Sophia Data.
Hello, I'm a sophomore at the high school, and I'm just here to support the teachers who are at risk or have family members at risk. And because it just doesn't make much sense to go back to in-person schooling, because even with like you won't be able to work and have the full experience because you'll be social distancing all the time and wearing masks. In science class, you won't be able to do, we won't be able to do labs or anything like that. So it won't really make all that much of a difference in the learning. It will help, but it will just increase the risk, and it won't really help all that much with the learning. I understand people who have special needs and children who can learn remotely. but it just doesn't make much sense to me. And I really just ask you to consider the teachers who can't go to school, who will like be risking their lives, because Princeton is doing very well, but there are many people who are not taking precautions and who are getting the virus, and it will probably spread if we reopen the school. Thank you.
Thank you.
Aiton Weger?
Hi, this is actually Victoria Legger. We have two kids in Littlebrook. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
So we live on Durant Avenue. We have two kids in Littlebrook, and we've just been incredibly frustrated through this whole process. I commend everything that the teachers are doing, and I completely respect teachers who don't feel comfortable coming back to school. That's why we were under the impression that initially teachers who want to be fully remote would be able to teach students who want to be fully remote, and then students and teachers who want to do hybrid or do in-person school would be, those teachers would be teaching those students. And it just seemed like a logical situation where, both sets would be happy. Our kids started hybrid this week, and they were so happy to go to school. It literally breaks my heart that this is all we could give them. Like, they're just so excited for these few hours a day, especially with elementary school kids who do, I think even the kids who don't have special needs, elementary school kids need that in-person instruction. And then with them going finally to school, it was really disappointing that they were then told to bring their devices to school. So not only is it frustrating that they're now sitting in class with only a handful of other students and their teacher, and they have to get on their computer to do work on the computer, it also poses a risk of them damaging their devices. Like, now there's kids who can't walk to school because they have to be driven, because they have heavy backpacks, because parents are worried about the kids breaking the devices. I just really wish there was a way to limit their device use, at least for the very, very small amount of time that they're spending with other students and with their teachers in person. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
There are no other hands raised. Oh,
okay.
There is one. David Rosenfeld.
Hi, I'm David Rosenfeld, school psychologist at the high school. And I just wanted to say, from my perspective, this process hasn't felt empathetic to me. I've spoken to a lot of teachers who have had their accommodations denied, and the process did not feel empathetic to them. We are all in the middle of trauma right now. We're still in the middle of a global pandemic. Remote learning has been, the adjustment to remote learning has not been an easy process. I think it's been a lot of hard work. But I'd like to think that in the time I was doing remote learning, that the quality of the work I was providing to my students was still exemplary. Other than testing students, doing psychological testing, I can see no reason for me to be in a school building. I have been providing excellent support to students through Zoom counseling. If I'm going to be in my office and wearing a mask, it's very hard to conduct counseling wearing a mask. All I will be doing by being in the building is adding more aerosols to the air. I did not apply for accommodations at this time, but I am diagnosed with major depressive disorder and with significant anxiety, which are treated very well. And I like to think part of the reason I went into the field I did is because of those diagnoses. I also happen to live alone. I have older parents who live in Florida, For 5 months during the pandemic, I was down in Florida doing my job, and I like to think I did an outstanding job. During that time, I helped organize a talent show for the high school. I helped organize a reading of Harry Potter literature to folks. I did my job really, really well. And I'm going to need to do my counseling through Zoom. All of my meetings, my IEP meetings, have to be through Zoom anyhow. At this point, I haven't applied for accommodations, but I did speak to my psychiatrist about whether that might be recommended when we get into November and December. I myself have to think about my own mental health too. And I think as a district, if we're going to value equity, that should apply to staff as well as to students. And individualization can also be a part of the puzzle for staff members. So when and if I get to a point in November where I feel like I need to apply for accommodations, I would like to think that people would be thinking in an individualized way about my application. And lastly, I just want to say, I think you need to think about how you're treating the staff, because bottom line is at this time, you know, I could be thinking about whether I want to do something else with my life. I love working in this district. I would like to put in 15 or 20 more years in this district. But if this district cannot be thinking about the wellness of the staff, I have to think about whether I need to rethink my plans. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, David.
And Zoo?
I'm a junior at PHS, and first off, I just want to thank the board for taking this time to listen to everyone's concerns tonight. I just wanted to say that I think teachers should be given the opportunity to choose whether or not they want to stay home, regardless of whether they have an underlying condition or if their family members do, because we as students are given that opportunity. And the teachers really mean a lot to us in this district. They've done so much for us throughout our years in the high school and the middle school. And I'm not saying that the district shouldn't reopen for those who need it on October 19th, but I think that the teachers who not just have an underlying condition, but who don't feel comfortable being in school should have the opportunity to choose whether or not they want to continue teaching virtually. Thank you.
Thank you.
Barbara Cohen?
Thank you for listening to me. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so I just wanted to say I am the former teacher of Yash Roy, who was the student advocate who was speaking for you. I'm also the former teacher of 2 board members who are speaking tonight, who were delightful students. Of course, I'm not going to say names. And I just have a very brief comment. At the end of the day, we all know this is going to pass, and I just want to make the comment that I feel like if this horrible disease happens to pass on to one staff member, it's not worth it. We all know that. And I feel like we can make accommodations. This is a building full of really smart people. And I feel like there are better ways to solve it than the way we are going about it right now. Some of the people who were talked about tonight with specific case studies are very, very dear friends and colleagues of mine. And I feel like, as David Rosenfeld mentioned, there are ways that we can deal with it that are more compassionate than have been dealt with thus far. And that's just what I wanted to say. And thank you for listening.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Denise Yang?
Hi, this is actually Angelina Chen. That's my mom. I'm a junior at PHS. And I just wanted to say that I don't really understand why all teachers are required to return to school. I think that While it may be necessary for certain students to return to school for extra support, it's not really fair to force all teachers to sacrifice their safety when a vast majority of students are able to safely and productively learn at home. I think that for most of us, going into hybrid learning is really just the same thing as virtual. It's just we're sitting in a classroom, separated by plexiglass, many feet apart, decked out in PPE, unable to eat or drink for many hours. And it's just overall a worse classroom experience than learning on Zoom for a lot of students. So I think that if the students in a class can learn productively virtually, their teachers shouldn't be obligated to need to return to school. I think that it's definitely a real concern for certain students who have special needs or younger students who require in-person learning, but I just don't understand why these differences are not shown in our teachers and more flexibility is not given.
Thank you.
Thank you.
James Yee?
Sorry, this is Catherine Ye, actually. Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay.
Yes.
So I spoke a couple of months ago at the board meeting. You guys are familiar with my connection with my sister having survived COVID. This evening, I would just like to speak to you as the mother of a severely asthmatic 3-year-old who I've had in and out of the emergency room up to 10 times a year since he was born. He takes daily asthma medication and allergy medication. I'm just putting that out there that I did apply for accommodation. I was denied it, and I have now applied for leave of absence. So I'm resigned to the fact that I will not be working this year for the district long term. I'm just echoing David Rosenfeld's sentiments here that some empathy needs to be shown. And also there are some of us like myself who will find other employment, and that's fine. I'm worried about my students, the ones that I have been serving virtually, and what is going to happen to them when I take a leave of absence. I personally have a master's degree in educational technology. And while I understand that related services must be provided in person for some students, there are others for whom virtual does work and innovative ways of reaching them. I just urge you to consider that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we want to keep going through? Sue McMahon is up next, but she's spoken twice. Whatever the board wants.
I would think everyone would have one go once first before we go back to have someone again.
Now there are people that are just raising their hands again. Whatever you guys want to do. There's no one out, there's no one that hasn't spoken yet that has their hand raised.
Michelle?
Well, I'm wondering if, so we've got a lengthy agenda ahead of us. We certainly want to hear what people have to say, but I'm just concerned about people speaking multiple times. I would hope that people would get their salient points the first time they spoke. And so, I mean, again, you're the chair, or the board, the rest of the board can chime in. I'm just wondering whether or not, you know, we've heard comments from folks, and because we can't have it turn into a debate. That's what I'm concerned about, because that's not what this is. This is people telling us what they think, and because we can't really answer questions or anything like that. So
maybe people feel they want to give us some follow-up, they can certainly write to us and we'll all see it. We read everything we get. We do hear, you know, we hear from a lot of people, but we take care to read it all. So if you want to give it to us maybe in writing, that might be the best way.
They can put it in the chat too, so.
Yeah, I could put it in the chat also. Okay. So Dr. Galasso, did you want to say anything, or else we'll just keep going with the meeting?
No, I think we're fine. I think we just should keep going.
Okay, good. So we are now on to item H, personnel. And now we're going to go relatively quickly because we are going to go through a number of items that are consents. So at the end, we will take a vote on all of the consent items, and I will read them, and the board has seen them and asked questions about them in advance of the meeting. This is how we do the work to get through everything.
I have some questions that weren't answered, so I'll bring them up when we get to them.
Okay, that's fine. So first item is resignations. H1, H2 appointments, H3 personnel items, H4 transfer reassignment, contract changes. Debbie?
Yeah, I had a question on that. Is May Castro, is that a new position? The, I'm sorry, the administrative secretary at PHS for the technology department?
It is not a new position. It was an existing position that we reallocated our secretarial staff so that we could get some support to both the technology department as well as the humanities department at the high school. It is not a new position.
So what, so we lost, so another job was taken off?
We had a retirement, and based upon that retirement, we reallocated some of those resources. A couple supervisors went to different secretaries for their support.
Okay, thank you.
And Matt, could you clarify H4 is a consent item? It doesn't appear to have a label.
Yes, they're all consent. There's another item down below, number 12, is also consent. I noticed that earlier. Thank you,
Right.
Beth.
Sure. H5, curriculum and instruction. H6, leaves of absence.
No.
What?
Go ahead, sorry.
H7, PRESA Article C, stipends. H8, student services. H9, resolution to create position. H10, PRIA appointments. H11, 6-period comp.
Yeah, I have a question on that. So are all of these related to COVID? I know that we had talked about if staff were leaving, we were having teachers do an extra one, but I just wanted to understand if they're all related or some are due to extra enrollment. Because it's the most I've ever seen.
Barry, would you like me to answer that? Sure. What is on here right now is a list of all the 6-period compensations at the high school. There are more than they were last year, but this specific list is simply because the PRIA contract was settled. So we put the new salaries back on plus the 6-period compensation. So these are all 6-period compensations you have already seen and have approved before. It's just with the revised salary.
When, I'm confused when we approved them prior.
You approved them last month. Remember you had asked the question about why there were, I think there were a half a dozen or so. And instead of leave replacements, we were able, the principals and the teachers agreed to, we'd rather have our experienced teachers teach the extra period. So that was the approval. That was last month. I'm trying to remember exact date, but it probably was probably at the September 29th or the week before that.
Right, but it definitely wasn't 35 of them.
No, there were two times that you approved them. Once to roll over to start this year. So these all were board approved. Barry had mentioned some at the last meeting and some at the rollover approval into the new year. And now they're just being brought back on here to show the new base salary plus the $10,000 for the 6-period compensation. So there are no new 6-period coverages being added here.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
H12 substitutes. H13 non-athletic EPS stipends. Did we?
I thought we were taking that off.
Off. That's not there.
Are you on a copy of the? It was removed.
That's removed. Okay, it's still in the title. H14 unaffiliated appointment revisions. H15 retirement payouts. H16 athletic EPS.
Yeah, I got a question on that one too. So why are all the volunteers now getting paid? These people were all volunteers when we approved it, I don't know, like a month ago.
Oh, because they were volunteers because they were working with the teams as unpaid volunteers.
Right.
We're now expanding the athletic program. So now they will be paid 30% for October and 30% for November. And they're the assistant coaches who are now being hired and entitled to a stipend.
And so we have expanded all these teams?
We have expanded the entire program of fall athletics to include JV and freshman teams. So therefore, these people who were volunteering their time are now getting 30% as part of our PRIA sidebar agreement.
Okay, I didn't realize we had increased the sports. Okay, thank you.
Okay, that takes us to I1, the 2021 calendar change, and that is an action item. Can I have a motion first? Brian, second. Betsy, do we have a discussion? This is a calendar change to change the dates of student-teacher conferences, right? Parent conferences.
Typically, this is something that would go through student achievement, but given the timely nature of this and getting this information to parents, it's just on tonight's agenda. I don't know, Dr. Ginsburg, if you want to speak to this at all, but basically the need is that our conference dates were very early, starting next week, and our staff felt that it would be more appropriate to move them a bit later.
Yes, we also made it on all the Wednesdays in the elementary schools are half days now. So we put it on those Wednesday half days, and we were able to take 2 of the 4 days that were not Wednesdays in the current calendar and make them full days. So we're able to increase some instructional time and also give the teachers more time to get to know their children. The children who are coming in person just came back, and we thought it would be perhaps better to move conferences a little bit later. The same thing for the middle school. Their children will just hopefully be returning next week, and they wanted some more time as well. So we've moved their times back until the middle of November, and we moved actually their interim progress report time back as well, about a week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question, Bob or Barry. So if we're in the hybrid mode and school, the in-person class ends at 1 o'clock, does that mean that they're dismissed earlier than 1 o'clock?
Now, who are you talking about?
Well, I'm talking about the conferences for
the elementary schools go, the teachers teach from 8:30 to 3 every day. In the morning till 12:30, they teach the in-person children. In the afternoon from 1:10 till the end of the day, they teach the remote children directly. On Wednesdays, they teach all the children remotely from 8:30 to 1 o'clock, and then from 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock, we've set aside for professional development and planning and technology training and so forth, so that we can maintain the program for the children and for the teachers.
I mean, so some kids won't see a teacher that day, the days of the conferences.
On those days, they will see their teachers directly and have in-person instruction. It'll just be remote. But the teachers will interact with every one of their children directly on Wednesdays.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so if there's no more questions, Mr. Bolden, you want to call the roll on that one?
Beth Barron?
Yes.
Debbie Bronfeld?
Yes.
Dan Dart?
Yes.
Jess Deutsch?
Yes.
Betsy Baglio?
Yes.
Ryan McDonald?
Yes.
Michelle Tuck Ponder?
Yes.
Daphne Kendall?
Abstain.
Susan Canner?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. That takes us to J1, the grant application carryover. These are consent items again. J2, educational placement, special ed. J3, a revised educational services commission, nursing services to non-public school. Then we go to K1, travel and related expenses. K2, non-public technology aid. K3, joint transportation agreement. K4,
hold on 1 second, hold on. Matt, I got some questions about 2 about us serving as a pass-through for the non-public schools. Could you just explain briefly why that's needed?
There has to be a
They
local
mandated that because parents, residents that choose to send their children to non-public schools, the state has made this an initiative and expanded this program over the last decade to more and more things. Security funds, technology funds have been recently added. So it's been in, go ahead, Dr. Glass, looks like you want to say something.
I was just going to say, there has to be a pass-through, and the pass-through has to go through a local education agency, and that local education agency has to be a public agency, and that's why we're the pass-through.
Okay, so basically this is just more work for us, and there's no compensation, right?
Nothing.
No.
And we follow up on stuff. There's a lot that Matt's group has to do on stuff like this.
We're just a local education agency where the money is parked until
Okay.
it's distributed.
Okay,
There's
thanks.
paperwork that we do.
That brings us to K4, emergent purchase above bid threshold. K5, change order authorization, security upgrades. I want to speak to this one. And that brings us to the consent. Can I have a motion for the consent, please? Brian, second. Jess, thank you. Mr. Bolden, you want to call the roll?
Absolutely. Beth
Yes.
Barron? Debbie Bronco?
Yes.
Dan Dahl?
Yes.
Jess Deutsch? Betsy
Yes.
Baglio? Brian McDonald?
Yes.
Michelle Tuck-Ponder?
Yes.
Daphne Kendall?
Yes.
And Susan Cantor?
Yes.
Consent agenda passed.
Thank you. That brings us to our second public comment time on any topic. Again, 3 minutes, and state your name and address. And we try to remember many people might want to speak, so it's not a Q&A. Thank you.
Jen Bigioni?
I actually do have a question. I'm curious as to what happened to the non-athletic EPS. I'm confused as to why that was taken off the agenda. I don't know if you'll allow us to hear the answer to that or not. Thank you.
All the EPA ESs, Jen, are being reviewed and will be on the October 27th agenda.
Okay.
Thank you.
If there's no additional comments.
There are none.
Okay. That brings us to
Didn't I see,
N1. Sorry?
Maria Wega just had a question in the chat. Maria, did you just want to have that in writing, or did you want to speak?
We can read it.
Okay, we'll just read it then. All righty.
Want me to read it?
Well, we can read it.
No,
Maybe.
we can read it. I just wanted to make sure she wasn't trying to speak and she couldn't get in.
Okay. All right. Are we then ready to go to N1, superintendent job description? And this is a discussion item, potentially an action item if we're ready for it. But this is obviously, we're trying to put together the Betsy, do you want to just speak to it? Go ahead.
Sure, I'll start, and the rest of us who worked on it can sort of tag team here. So we've been working on this job description for months, literally months, and this is something that we're putting together in advance of the rest of our superintendent search that our consultant is doing. So we've given a lot of thought to what to include in this job description. We've used the NJSBA as a model job description, but certainly have updated it to reflect Princeton and what we're looking for from our leader in this district. So 5 of us have worked on the document. That was Debbie and Daphne and Beth and Jess and myself. And then we sent it to the rest of the board. Now you haven't had a whole lot of time to review it, so we'd really like to hear from you. If it's something we'd like to approve tonight and we're able to, we can do that. If there are edits, I've spoken with Matt we just wanted to make sure we're doing things the right way to avoid any OPMA issues. One person can collect edits from individual board members and then put together a new draft to go out to the board. It just can't be something we work on as a collective over email. So any comments, questions? Brian?
I have quite a few suggested edits and would love to be able to provide those to that board member so that they could collect them and come back with a revision. And I should have begun by saying I think this is really, really good. And that I know that a lot of hard work has gone into it, which I appreciate. There are just a few things that I'd like to spend a little more time on. I looked at it first thing this morning when it came in, and would just respectfully request that we add that one step.
Yeah, we can definitely take it. I don't know if it's easier for you to email them. Probably is, right?
Yeah.
email your comments. Can Betsy and I do it together? Can we have 2 people or no? Is that too many?
Michelle, did you want to make a comment?
I just wanted to agree with Brian's statement. I had a chance to look at it, but I didn't really get to dive in, and I would appreciate some more time to offer some comments too. I don't want to hold things up, but it's really important that I fully understand. So
this is one of the, we all agree this is one of the most important things we do as board members, is the hiring of a new superintendent. And so if we feel that we need until our next meeting, 2 more weeks to sort of finalize this, I would support that as well.
And so maybe comments could come to you and to Debbie together, and you guys could work on a turn.
And Matt, that's okay, that if the comments come to Debbie and me, we finalize a new draft and get that out to the board.
Could be as many as 5. Could be committee, you know.
Okay.
Probably easier. We have just fewer.
Okay.
No, I'm not saying to do that. I'm saying up to 5 is. You know.
How about we do this? If board members, if you could take a look and send us your comments by the end of this week, that would be ideal. And we'll get that out to everybody a week ahead of our meeting. Yeah. And the 5 of us promise not to fiddle with it anymore. We've been, it's hard when you're invested in something not to keep going.
I do have one substantive comment that I will share offline, but that's the only thing I want to add.
Okay. And I'll just make the comment from the perspective of what this is for. You know, it is used in the job search, but I don't think it's a key document. I mean, people want to see that we have one in place. And we have to remember that as a board, we will hire someone and then we will work with them, develop a strategic plan. We need to upgrade that. And then we will give them goals every year. So we will put what we want and what we will measure them against in goals, not necessarily in the job description, although the job description is unique to Princeton. And I think we've done a nice job of putting in there kind of who we are. But it is something, it's not the measuring stick that we have for their performance necessarily.
And this time, this would line up well. October 27th, Kevin, our consultant, will be back with us with the board in closed session to present to us the new superintendent profile based on the information received from the community. I'd just like to say to the community tonight, thank you very much for participating in the surveys, in our focus groups, and our virtual forums. We appreciate your input. And that document, after it's shared with the board, will be made public as well.
Great. So if everyone just wants to have a close look at that document and then pass on their comments, then we can hopefully just be done with it next time when we do hear from Kevin. So anyone have any other points on that? If not, can I have a motion to adjourn? You ready? Jess? Second, Debbie? All those in favor? Looks like it's passed.
Susan, you're thinking about it?
Unanimously. Wake up, Susan. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Meeting adjourned. Good night.
Good night.
Thanks a lot.